Hey, welcome back. You know that feeling when you're packing for a big move and you're sorting through boxes of old books and notes? You find that one notebook filled with your own handwriting from years ago, and suddenly you're transported. It's a time capsule. Now, imagine that notebook wasn't just your personal musings, but the collected knowledge of an entire civilization. And instead of being tucked away in a dusty attic, it was buried under the ruins of a palace for 2,500 years, waiting to tell its story. That's where we're going today. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is Echoes of the Ancients. Our story starts not with a library, but with a king with a very specific and frankly relatable anxiety. His name was Ashurbanipal. He ruled the Neo-Assyrian Empire from the city of Nineveh, in what is now northern Iraq, around 668 to 627 BCE. This was the world's first true superpower, a brutal, efficient, and magnificent empire. And Ashurbanipal was perhaps its most fascinating ruler. He was a conqueror, a hunter of lions, a master of propaganda. But he was also, and he made sure people knew this, a man of letters. He was literate, a rare feat for any king of the time, let alone an Assyrian one. And he was terrified of something, not of invasion or rebellion, but of forgetting. He was obsessed with knowledge, with preserving everything. Think about the sheer scale of his ambition. He didn't just want the official records and the religious hymns. He wanted everything: medical texts, omens, rituals, contracts, poetry, administrative letters, dictionaries for translating between Sumerian and Akkadian, the ancient languages of Mesopotamia. He sent scribes across his empire with a royal mandate: copy every text you can find. Go to the ancient temple archives of Babylon, of Nippur, of Uruk. Find the oldest, most fragile clay tablets and copy them onto fresh, durable clay. Then send those copies back to Nineveh, to his palace. He was building a backup drive for Mesopotamian civilization. And so, the Library of Ashurbanipal was born. It wasn't a public institution in our modern sense. It was a royal archive, a think tank, a powerhouse of scholarly and political authority. Knowledge was power, and Ashurbanipal was centralizing it all. The tablets were organized by subject, stored in multiple rooms. Some were small enough to fit in your palm. Others were large, multi-columned masterpieces. They were the internet of their day, a vast, queryable database of human experience. How to predict the future from a sheep's liver. How to treat a wound with honey and herbs. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the oldest great work of literature we have. All of it sitting on those shelves of clay. This is the part of the story that always gives me chills. Because Ashurbanipal's greatest fear did come true, but not in the way he expected. After his death, the empire he built unraveled with shocking speed. A coalition of Babylonians and Medes besieged Nineveh. In 612 BCE, the city fell. It was sacked, burned, and utterly destroyed. The magnificent palace, with its carved stone reliefs of the king hunting lions, was reduced to rubble and buried by time. The fire that consumed the city baked the very tablets in Ashurbanipal's library. The wooden shelves they sat on turned to ash, and the tablets crashed to the floor, where they were buried under collapsed walls and centuries of dirt. For generations, the knowledge was not lost exactly. It was just forgotten. The library became a ghost, a rumor in historical texts. Then, in the mid-19th century, archaeologists began digging at the mound that covered Nineveh. An English adventurer named Austin Henry Layard, and later his assistant Hormizd Rassam, made the discovery. They unearthed room after room filled with broken clay tablets. At first, they didn't understand the magnitude of what they'd found. They were looking for museum pieces, grand sculptures. These broken bits of clay seemed less impressive. But as the tablets were carefully excavated, packed, and sent to the British Museum, where scholars began the painstaking work of decipherment, the truth emerged. They had found it. The fire that was meant to erase Nineveh had, ironically, preserved its library by firing the clay tablets into permanent ceramic. The enemy's destruction had become history's preservation. I think about the duality of that moment a lot. As an engineer, I see a system failure and an unintended consequence. The system, the Assyrian Empire, collapsed catastrophically. But one component, the library, through a physical quirk of its medium, survived because of the collapse. The fire was a bug that became a feature. It's a stark reminder that preservation is never guaranteed. It's often fragile, accidental, and comes at a tremendous cost. Ashurbanipal wanted to save knowledge from the slow fade of time. Instead, it was saved from the flames by the flames themselves. Reading translations from the library is a profoundly human experience. You move beyond the kings and battles and touch the daily life of a civilization. There's a medical text that lists symptoms. If a man's temples contain darkness, his face is yellow, and his stomach is swollen. There are omens so specific they're almost funny. If a red dog urinates on a prince, that prince will die within the year. And then there's the Epic of Gilgamesh, found in its most complete version in Ashurbanipal's library. To read it is to hear a voice from over 4,000 years ago grappling with friendship, loss, and the fear of death. Gilgamesh's quest for immortality ultimately fails, but his story achieved exactly that. Immortality, because a king with an archivist's mind had a copy made and stored in his palace. So what is the echo of Ashurbanipal's library? It's more than just the physical tablets in London. It's the very idea of a universal library. The drive to gather all known information in one place, to build a fortress against oblivion. We see it in the Great Library of Alexandria, which came later. We see it in the dream of the internet. And we see it in our own personal acts of preservation. The photo albums, the journals, the hard drives. We are all, in our own small way, fighting Ashurbanipal's fight against forgetting. We are all curators of our own little libraries, hoping that something of our truth, our story, survives the inevitable flames of change. The library teaches us that knowledge is resilient, but it's not indestructible. It needs curators. It needs people who are anxious about forgetting. Ashurbanipal, for all his might and brutality, understood that the most enduring legacy isn't always a conquered city. Sometimes it's a saved sentence, a preserved poem, a recorded recipe. It's the humble clay tablet that outlasts the palace wall it was stored in. Thank you for listening to this episode of Echoes of the Ancients. If this story resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd share the podcast with someone else who loves getting lost in the corridors of history. You can find more episodes and learn more about the work we do here at Light Not Studios. That's lightnotstudios.com. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi. Until next time, take care and keep listening for the echoes.